Hello, everybody, and welcome to Proline. This week, I don't know how your screen is set up, but we have Dave Koken right next to me, and then we have Big Al McMorty, and joining us this week also is Paul Bovey. We have a good show planned for you, and we're going to talk about 4 games. We have some offers to tell you about. There's some controversy out there with online gambling, legalized gambling. We got sex scandals. We got everything going on this week. It's just the microcosm of society. It's a mess out there. But Dave, why don't you lead us off with some of these college discussions? Or maybe what do you have to offer this week?
Well, yeah, actually, I do want to lead with this. I know it's not the biggest story of the week, but for me, it's the biggest event of the year. It's my 31st annual college game of the year. What I'll do before the season starts, actually start with some spring ball, or even coming out of last year, I'll circle a handful of games as potential monster plays. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to be, because a lot of things can change from one week to the next to take some plays out of the equation. The circumstances have to be right. Well, boy, oh boy, did they ever fall right for this game. I know this is going to sound like pure hype, but it's not. This is one of the best spots I've ever seen. And I took a big advantage of it on Sunday night. I really went after this game. The first thing I did on Monday was make sure that all my personal service customers had this game. We made it official right there. And there's been movement already in this line. It's going to take off on Saturday. So the way this is set up, now I got a great record in this game of the year over the years. I'm very proud of that, and I intend to add a winner here. I think this is going to be easy. Online, the game will be $99, which is pretty reasonable for a game this size. But if you really want to take advantage of a good offer, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to price the game at $25. I'm going to include a guarantee that you got to get the money on this game, or the rest of the college season is free. And all you need to do is make one phone call, and that's it. 1-866-841-1665 is the number. That's 1-866-841-1665. It's my biggest game of the season, my annual college game of the year, 31st annual. I hate saying that number because it means I'm old. But I think it's a great play. That'll be an easy winner, and I can't wait for it to get there. Paul, I know you have these money plays, which is what you call your big games. Jesus. Look, I know what these are. They are all documented. Well, these things were tremendous last year. Then you just crushed them in basketball. You're doing it again in football this year. So let everybody know what you got coming up this weekend.
Yeah, Dave, I'm 21-9 this year on my money plays, and I don't release a lot of these, 2 to 3 a week maximum. But I've got my money play of the month coming up this Saturday. It's $25. You win the game, or you get the rest of the month for free. 866-896-1629. Now, last Saturday, my money play of the week was Tennessee over Middle Tennessee State. It went out to a 24-0 lead. It could have been a little bit more comfortable in the second half, but we won it. My money play total of the month last week was Toledo and Northern Illinois. They racked up 123 points. That MAC conference has just been it's been insane. When they posted the number at 71, a lot of people got scared, but they just made a mockery out of the number. It was an easy winner, and this Saturday again, we're going to have an easy winner. That's 1-866-896-1629, $25, or you're going to get the rest of the month free if I don't win this game, and I will.
All right. Al, actually, I forgot to check and see what you have for a special this week, but I'll just relate something. Jim and myself got a pretty good, Al's got the best database there is for this stuff. There is none better than this. And he let Jim and myself know about a system that produced 2 plays last week. Really solid. This baby's like, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but it's in that 70-something range. And on a lot of plays over the years. 2-0. I like that, Al. That means money in my pocket. So just for those of you who are watching, when Al comes with something out of his database that's really strong, that's backed by his opinion as well, we bet it. Okay? These games are good. What do you got this week, Al?
Well, yeah, and we even talked about one of them last week on the show, that Seattle Seahawks play, and they got the money against the Cowboys. And, we talked about it on the show, and I said it was my favorite bet by far, And this week for the special, we're going to talk about our Vegas Strip moves again. They swept the board also last week, Dave. In college, the Vegas Strip moves won with the Houston Cougars, and that's just been a money express the whole season with Case Keenum. And then the Ravens came through on Sunday night for us. And the Vegas Strip moves now, going back to last year, documented 44-13. We already won our Vegas Strip move college football game of the year a few weeks ago when Fresno State won outright over Utah State. We had a record number of calls for that play. Well, this week I've isolated a favorite in college football, and it's going to be our Vegas Strip move favorite of the year. And it's backed by a 100% system that's never lost in 32 seasons, and the play is just $19. You can call right now and pick it up. Call toll-free 866-896-1628. These Vegas Strip moves now documented 44-13 the past 2 years in football. Swept the board last week, and we're going to win again on Saturday, our college football favorite of the year.
Well, Jim, total of the year got there last week. All the big games, when you step out with something big, you back it with your own money. That's really important. And the players that are following that are putting money in their pockets. That's even more important.
Well, Dave, I'm listening to what all of you have to offer this week, and I'm thinking to myself, if I invest like $100 and I buy all of your packages, and I go out and I bet, let's say $7,000-8,000 per play. And you the return on investment is ridiculous. I certainly can't, unless I bought Microsoft when it first came out 100 years ago. I couldn't duplicate that. And Paul, I know from your stockbroker background, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The return on investment on these, no, of course they're not 100% they're going to win, but over a season or 5 seasons or 10 seasons, the percentages stand up. And I do know what Dave's talking about is those 2 plays last week that Al had on this super system that he told us about. And then the Vegas strip moves have been amazing. And Paul, your money games, and Dave. I don't have to pay for them because you guys give them to me for free, but I also have my own plays. And last Saturday I went 3-1 in my college football high roller releases, losing only with Alabama in overtime, but cleaning up with Iowa, Louisiana Tech, and Louisville, 3 underdogs that won straight up by a combined 31 points. Then on Sunday, I smoked the books again, and my total of the year won. Well, it wasn't the easiest winner in the world, and it certainly wasn't one of the easier ones I've had in my life, but it did win, and I'm very proud of that as well because it keeps my total of the year and game of the year records very strong. Saturday, I'm doing it again with a pair of high roller releases for only $10. These exclusive plays are valued at $500 each, but you can get both of these plays for a fan appreciation special for $10. That's right. The card is so strong on Saturday. I'm firing a double-barreled action on these 2 plays for $10. Just call 1-866-841-1655. It's High Roller Saturday, and I'm locked and loaded, so get ready for a pair of monster winners for $10. 1-866-841-1655. And also, if you want free winners each and every day, text WINNER, WINNER, to 313131. So you want the 2 high rollers, make the call for $10, 1-866-841-1655. And for free winners each and every day, text WINNER, WINNER, to 313131. Dave, we've got a couple of college games we want to talk about. Look pretty good this weekend, and we should share with the fans.
Well, let's get to it. We'll start in the Big Ten. Michigan, they lost last week. The Wolverines went into Iowa and were defeated. They have to go against Illinois this week. It's funny, Jim. The one thing that's kind of predictable about Illinois, even though they're a little bit of an unpredictable team, is when it's a really big game, that's when and the pressure's on, that's the time Illinois generally isn't going to deliver. I think that's the shortcoming of Ron Zook. I think he's a very good recruiter, He seems like a terrific guy, by the way, and a good motivator. But I'm not sure of the game planning for the big games. Sure enough, this year, you turn back the clock 3 weeks. This team's in a position to do some big stuff in the Big Ten because of the way the chips have fallen in that conference. Hadn't gone so well for them since then. The problem now is that the pressure's off Illinois. They're not going to get to the Rose Bowl. They'll play in some other bowl again. That's typical Illinois. And this is when they actually become a dangerous football team, when there's no pressure on them. Radio, I know it didn't go his way last week, but boy, he's doing a good job with this football team, and that's no surprise, Jim. This guy did a great job at San Diego State last year, and I'm just surprised it didn't take him any time at all to get Michigan not back to the level they were at one time. I mean, they're not yet challenging for a national title, but they're on the way in that direction. This was a great hire by Michigan. He's going to do really well here. I think Michigan will, the tough part for them in this game, a disappointing loss last week. It's tough to come back from those. And Illinois probably has a little bit of a scheduling advantage here. I don't know how much I trust Illinois, but I kind of think they might be the right side in this game, Jim.
Well, you got two teams with pretty good winning records, and there's a tremendous amount of tradition as well. I mean, Michigan is 7-2, 6-3 against the spread this year, 5-3 under the total. You got Illinois, on the other hand, has been a big money burner this year, 2-5 ATS, also under. I'm leaning to the under in this spot. Wolverines 2 straight weeks on the road, tough one last week. Here again, I know Al and Paul might have something to add here. Michigan on the road, covering the spread isn't the best situation. When you look at the lines on this game, there's a lot to be said here. The game opened at one of the biggest sports books at Michigan 1.5, and it opened in another spot. Interestingly enough, it was Pick at one smaller spot, the road team is either favored or not, but now you're looking at Pick or the home team favored in most spots.
Yeah.
There's still one place out there that has Michigan as the favorite, but there's been more money to Illinois so far. Not a lot, but enough to put it, go across the board with all these outside books, these offshores, to put more money has come in on Illinois than on Michigan. The total has gone a little bit higher. Went from 48 to 49.5 and 50. I favor the under at that number. And, at this time of year, like Illinois, you can get some bad weather by Saturday as well. So I'm going to go under with this game. Al?
Well, I'm going to stay on the sidelines right now. I'm going to see where the line goes, Jim. I may participate depending on if the line moves a little bit more, but right now I'm going to stay on the sidelines.
Oh, you got anything?
Well, I like the fact that the total's been going up because I like this game to the low side. I think if you shut down Shieldhouse, it really becomes difficult for him to throw the football. I don't see a lot of scoring in this game. Illinois has clearly become an under team. They struggled mightily against Penn State a few weeks ago. And I see this game probably around 38 to 40 points under.
Let's move on to a game that I actually think this is one of the really fun games of the week because you got two programs that are on the way back here. It's been a rough go for Miami with just a slew of problems off the field, and we know what happened earlier this year with the Shapiro guy. Just an embarrassment there for the school. But Al Golden is a terrific coach, and I think they're making positive progress already. Florida State, they have been impressive the last few weeks. I mean, really impressive. Yeah. This is a team that they're actually, Al, I think they actually might be under the radar right now because they knocked themselves out of a contention for big stuff early in the season. But I mean, the last 3 weeks, or maybe 4, Florida State's played some of the best football in the country. This is an old rivalry that looks like it's going to get really good again because I think both programs are taking some positive steps. And two good coaches, Al Golden and Jimbo Fisher. This is going to be a fun game to watch on Saturday, Al.
Yeah, I had a big play on Florida State earlier this year against Duke, and the Seminoles won that game 41-16. And Dave, I think you were on that game as well. And then I think the next week you had an even bigger play on Florida State. That was one of your biggest plays of the entire year, and they won that next game by an identical 41-16 score. And they've covered now 4 straight games. They've won 4 straight games, and it's all coincided with E.J. Manuel being reinserted into the starting lineup. And their last 2 games may have been the most impressive of all. They've held North Carolina State and Boston College to 0 and 7 points respectively in 34-0 and 38-7 wins. And, there's just no way I'm going to step in front of this Florida State freight train right now, even though the road team's won 5 straight games in this series. I'm a big believer in college football in playing on momentum. And Florida State has all the momentum right now. They're playing at home. And I think the line's reasonable, and I think you can get Florida State in this price range. I think it's a steal.
Paul. Go ahead, Paul.
I have a pretty strong opinion here, and I do look at Florida State. They've outscored their last 4 opponents, 154-39. But then I look at the 2 games before that when they played Clemson and Wake Forest, and those 2 teams tallied 60. Manuel and Trickett have gotten it done, 21-10 ratio, touchdowns to interceptions. You look at the other side of the ball, Ja'Cory Harris, 18-4, and a 16-1 touchdown to interception ratio in his last 6 games. But what concerns me here with Miami of Florida is their pass defense. They allow quarterback Klein at K-State a 165 rating. I believe it's quarterback Renner of North Carolina, 29-37. 288, but what really concerned me was their performance against Vatek when the quarterback threw 25 for 311. I think they're struggling in the secondary, and the fact that they held Georgia Tech to 7 points, Georgia Tech doesn't throw the football. So what I think is going to happen here is you're going to have a situation where Florida State's definitely going to move the ball up and down the field. Ja'Cory Harris and Miami, they're also going to move the football, and I see this game going over the 50.5 points pretty easily. You'll probably get this cover by early 4th quarter.
I think that's going to be a really fun game. I don't have a strong opinion on it. Jim, have you got anything that here's what I want to ask you on this game, Jim, is not specifically on this game, but, we've both been around this a long time. One of the things I think that occurred at Florida State was that it took a while for them to get used to the idea of Bobby Bowden not being there. I think they're over that now, and you're seeing it's now Jimbo Fisher's team. In the meantime, here's the stranger that comes into Miami, right, and Al Golden, and it took a few weeks for them, a little time for them to buy into what he said. Boy, I tell you what, the enthusiasm level at Miami from September to now has changed dramatically. That's what I think makes this such a, look, it's tough to follow and act like Alabama and LSU, and obviously these teams aren't quite at that level. But I think this is one of the better and more interesting games, just as a fan of college football, to watch. I can't wait to see this game on Saturday.
Well, I think from everything everybody said, and you look at the stats. First of all, it's a huge revenge game for Miami. This is the Hurricane program was one of the top programs in the country for a long time, and it's really fallen on hard times. When you look at just the last couple of games, and you look at the way Miami has been playing, and Harris been throwing the ball, and like Paul said, 18-4 TDs and interceptions. And then you look at the revenge angle from last year. I think they lost 45-17 to this club. It's a huge situation for them. You're looking at almost 10 points out there. Well, it's open 9.5. It's really 9. And the total is 8. I think from my standpoint, I would not lay the points here for me. But I do like the over. I think the over is a good spot. 50 it's a big number, but in college, you can get one team scoring 50 very easily. It's the way the game is played. The way these two teams move the football, and both quarterbacks are throwing the ball very well. I kind of look for the over to happen here, Dave.
The NFL schedule this week is boy, talk about two good games. We're going to look at these Steelers-Bengals. Who would have thought that was going to be the matchup it is prior to the season? And Saints-Falcons, which I think we knew was going to be big. Before that, though, let's toss this around. This is interesting stuff. Big developments in the gaming industry potentially. Canada looks like they're going to single game betting. They've had a form of legalized sports wagering, but not to this extent. And the voters in New Jersey on Tuesday spoke loudly and clearly about their stance on legalized sports wagering. You know, things aren't good in New Jersey right now. The casino economy, the casino business is big for their economy. Well, the casino business hasn't been good in New Jersey for some time. And like many states, they're having issues with dollars back there. Voters, I don't think it's just because they like to bet football games. The voters turned out in the polls, and on Tuesday, I think it was better than 60%, overwhelming support to legalize sports wagering. Now, I don't know if it'll happen, because the NFL is probably going to stick its nose in, and who knows what other lobbyists will get involved. But, guys, let's toss this out there. Are we seeing the dawn of a new era? I hope it is. Not just a personal gain. I think it's the right thing to let people decide what they should do with their own money as far as their own leisure time. I don't like the government sticking its nose into our living rooms, basically. But Jim, is this the start of a groundswell here for a change that's needed?
Well, that's a leading question, Dave, but it has a lot of there's a lot of tentacles to that question because it goes into every part of our society. We've had 40 years of prosperity that ended pretty much 5-6 years ago. Maybe you could even go back to the 2001. But we're going to go into about 2 decades of correction. And where the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and the middle class gets wiped out. When you drop values, I'm going around the horn here to answer the question, but my perspective is that when society can't pay their bills, it can't pay their police, their fire departments can't clean the streets, can't repair bridges and buildings and things like that, you're looking at a lower tax base all across the country because property values have dropped. More people are unemployed. More people are going into the social programs that need more government money. You're looking at higher tax rates. We have the argument now that the rich should get taxed higher, which I happen to. A lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, but I think that's obvious, and it obviously has to happen. Not that I like it, but I think it's right. Anytime you can raise taxes on a volunteer basis, where people are betting on sports, playing poker, and the government's making money off of it, makes more sense than just going out and saying, okay, you make this much money and you have to pay higher taxes because of it. Makes sense to me. So in our country, we've outlawed gambling 5 or 6 different times, and we've done that in periods where there was a lot of prosperity. Well, when times get tough, we've legalized gambling, and I think that's what's going to happen across the country because we need more money to pay our bills. And so it's obvious it's going to happen. And even though there's a lot of people still against it, as time goes on and the bleeding in the streets continues, and the rioting in the streets continue, you're going to see more and more of it because you're going to need more of people paying taxes on things they like doing rather than just paying taxes to pay things they don't like. So the answer is yes, it's going to happen. It's inevitable. They can fight it for as long as they want. But prohibition has never worked in the United States, never worked anywhere where people want to be free to do what they want with their money. And it's not going to work now. So you're prohibiting people from gambling online, betting on sports, playing poker. It isn't going to work. It's just going to cause more trouble. They need to learn how to regulate things. We need better leadership in this country to make things work, get people back to work, and pay some of our bills.
Al, you've got the legal background. How tough is there a favorite in this fight? Because there will be legal challenges. Even if the Senate says, okay, in New Jersey, we're with you, and you would think they would based on the will of the voters, there'll still be a legal fight here that takes place. I guess as to how it could go and how long it could go before a decision's rendered.
Dave?
Yes.
Yeah, no, my audio's going in and out. It's hard for me to hear a lot of this.
Well, I was just a basic quick question was, from a legal standpoint, what's the battleground going to look like here?
Well, I don't know. I haven't really, given much thought to it at all. So my only take on this thing is, what I don't like about what New Jersey did was that it basically would not include college games that take place in the state or where a state college is involved. It's almost an admission that something can go wrong. I mean, I liked what years ago when Nevada began to allow UNLV and Nevada Reno games to be bet on. I mean, that makes sense. It doesn't, if you're going to say we're scared of people betting on our own colleges' games, it's almost an admission of guilt, really, and that there could be funny business. And that's the one thing I don't like about this, what New Jersey did. I wish they would have just gone full bore and said, we want to bet on anything.
I would agree with that, certainly. And that's part of the reason the games eventually went on the board here in Nevada. It's like, wait a minute, you're basically saying, because people are going to bet these games, so they should bet those games in the legal bookmakers who actually have more opportunity to have access with people locally. It doesn't make any sense. It's completely illogical. If anything, the games you want on the board the most would be the local games. You know what, Paul? It just drives me nuts when people who have no knowledge of the gambling industry, none, they don't get it at all, are trying to pass laws on it. They don't, or even frame things like this. It doesn't make any sense. They don't understand it.
My take on this whole thing, I think there's going to be a lot of opposition from the various leagues on these things. I don't think this is going to pass very easily. And the other question is, where does it leave this city? Where does it leave Las Vegas, which is already down in terms of numbers over the last few years, and dramatically so? They've lost a lot of business to Macau. The prototype customer that they're now attracting here in Vegas is not spending a lot of money. You lose that East Coast faction of dent in the city revenue.
Yeah, my only disagreement with that would be I don't think it makes a difference because Las Vegas represents Nevada, I should say, represents less than 2% of the overall market anyway. So they love to say Vegas has the game. We even say it ourselves, but Vegas isn't where the money's bet. It never really has been. So I don't know that makes a big difference. I mean, Jim, there's about 100. Well, not 100. There's about maybe 50 times more money bet in New York on a Sunday in the NFL with bookmakers in New York than there is in all of Nevada. It's people don't get that, and the lawmakers in particular don't get that. It's like they think that we're the only place for people to bet. That's silly.
No, it is very silly. Dave, we should move on to some of these pro games that we have to talk about. What do we have first up?
Well, the Steelers, who are not a surprise, are playing the Bengals, who are a huge surprise. Hey, Al, this is an absolute... Look, if somebody had told me before the season that the Bengals would be tied for the best record in the AFC past the halfway mark of the season, I'd have said, you are insane. Go check yourself into a facility. But that's exactly what's happened now. This team is playing outstanding ball. The Bengals, of course, at home, Boy, what a huge game for them. Now, that's the question I had. This is now the biggest game Cincinnati's played in years. We kind of saw what happened to the Bills last week in their huge game scenario at home. They got knocked around. I don't know if they're experienced enough in big games. With the Steelers, this is old hat to them.
Yeah, it is. But you know, Pittsburgh, you take a look at them this season, they're 2-2 on the road, Dave, but they're 0-2 against the good teams, Baltimore and Houston, with an average loss of 17.5 points, while they're 2-0 on the road against teams that can't play a lick, like Indianapolis and Arizona. The problem for Pittsburgh is that Cincinnati can play. And the Bengals have won 5 straight games. They own wins against teams like Buffalo, Jacksonville, and Tennessee. And even more impressive is the fact that the Bengals are 7-1 against the spread this season. And, you know, it's not as strong of a play for me like the Florida State play. I really like Florida State a lot in that game against Miami. But I do like Cincinnati here. This would be just more of a kind of a shaky nod to the Bengals as a home dog. And you know, I just think Pittsburgh, until they prove to me they can go on the road this year and beat a good team, I don't want any part of the Steelers on the road.
My thought from the game is that I think this one could be an old-fashioned divisional slugfest. I think this is going to be a tough, in-the-trenches game. Pittsburgh didn't play well defensively down the stretch last week, to put it mildly. I think that's a source of pride and better scheming, and Dick LeBeau is pretty good. So I think they're going to find a way to shut down the Bengals. I'm very impressed with the Cincinnati defense, and I don't think they're going to be intimidated facing Pittsburgh's offense, despite the fact the Steelers kind of a quick team these days. But I think this game's going to be under the total. Guys, unless anybody else has got anything else to add on that game, Jim, let's head to the Saints and Falcons, because this is, boy, oh boy, this should be these two teams don't like each other anyway, and just because of the circumstances, Saints and Falcons this week, this could be pretty good.
You know, if you go back a few years, actually many years, this was a road series where the road team continually won. I mean, it was like consistent, one of the most consistent bets you could make. You just pick the road team and they're going to win the game. And they usually, even if they were a dog, even though they almost always were a dog, they'd still win straight up. It's not that way anymore. The Saints have not played as well on the road as they do at home. A lot of teams, that could be said for. But in this case, they've played much worse on the road. Now, this game opened the Saints 1. It's still won in one or two places, but most of the places have gone to Pick'em or the home team favored. Paul, I think you probably talk about this. You follow the player injuries and how much a player affects a team. But Julio Jones came back off an injury for Atlanta, and I think he's made a huge difference for Matt Ryan and the company. They have some pretty good weapons on offense right now.
Yeah, Jim, that's an excellent point because, you know, when Julio Jones went out, the offense basically stopped in their tracks against Green Bay. They didn't score another point for the second half. They lost that game, I believe it was 25-14, and I believe they went out to a big lead. Julio Jones goes out of the game, and then basically Atlanta shuts down. The drop down from Julio Jones to Harry Douglas is just monumental. When he's in the lineup, he forces defenses to play honest against Roddy White. And, of course, you've got Tony Gonzalez in the mix. Julio Jones is averaging 17.5 yards per catch, which is huge for the Falcons. And then you got their running game, which is working. I think what a lot of people are looking at with New Orleans, yeah, the offense looks great. It's 445 yards a game. The passing offense is there. But they were absolutely exposed by the St. Louis Rams. They sacked Drew Brees 6 times. They ran for 180 yards. And if you can believe this, New Orleans was held to 125 yards of offense through 3 quarters. New Orleans, I would submit, is not the same football team that they were in years past. Their red zone defense is their last in the league. They're allowing touchdowns on 70% of attempts inside the red zone. And this is just a team that is down a notch. They lose Tracy Porter to an injury. That's going to hurt their secondary. And this has become a team that is based upon Darren Sproles and Jimmy Graham. Those two guys have accounted for 154 targets, and the next two guys are up around 92. So whereas in prior years they were throwing the deep ball, they're now going short. They've lost 3 out of 5 games on the road. I like Atlanta here. I think they're the better team. They're coming into this game off a very, very impressive win, and I believe they win this football game.
All right. Well, guys, we want to remind everybody of what we've got going this weekend for specials, and also our best bets. Paul, let's stay with you first, since you just made such a good case for the Falcons. I don't know if that's your best bet or not, but talk about that. And again, the money play is just dynamite.
Well, I like the Falcons, but it is not my best bet. I have my money play of the month going on Saturday. You can get that play for only $25. Now, my money plays, again, 21-9 against the spread this year. I don't put a lot of them out. I've already circled this game. I am 99% sure on the game. I'm just checking a few injuries. But you get that play, $25. If I blow that play, you get the rest of the month for free. That's 1-866-896-1629. And again, I only put out 2 to 3 of these money plays a week. I reserve them for my strongest plays. This is a very solid play going on Saturday, and I'm going to win the game.
Al, let's go to you. And I'm assuming, and I'll be on these games myself, I'm assuming just a continuation of what's been going on all season.
Yeah, my best bet here for the show obviously is going to be on Florida State. I really like that play a lot. The best bet by far this week for all people watching the show is to get on board for my Vegas strip move college favorite of the year. We already cashed our college football game of the year with an underdog play, Fresno State against Utah State. And these Vegas strip moves have been nothing but money in the bank for 2 years now, 44-13 documented. This play on Saturday, it's out of a 100% perfect system. It's only $19. And you can get it right now. Call toll-free 866-896-1628. My Vegas strip move college football favorite of the year, Dave. 866-896-1628.
I think I'm going to go with the Steelers-Bengals game under. Among the games we talked about is my best bet. I think this is just going to be an old-fashioned division war, although it's not old-fashioned considering the Bengals haven't been involved in one of these in a long time. But this should be a fun game if you like defense. And a lot of unders last week. I think that this game will be a continuation of that. There's no question about the big game for me. It's my biggest of the year. 31st annual college football game of the year. It's already gone out to every one of my customers, and believe me, they are banging this game hard. I played it right away on Sunday night. Love this spot. I think it is an absolutely great play. And I got to tell you something. If this game's even remotely close to the number, I'll be surprised. Get my college game of the year online Saturday for $99, or get it by calling 1-866-841-1665. Save a bunch. Get it for $25, and you get a guarantee. It's going to get the money, or you get the rest of the college season free. Plus, I've got a couple of action plays that I'm going to give you as a free bonus, by the way, to make it a real good game for you on Saturday. So make sure and take advantage and get this best game of the season, 1-866-841-1665. And by the way, Jim, of course, mentioned that you can get free plays via text message. You can also do that with me. It's great. It's easy. All you have to do is text Kokin, C-O-K-I-N, to 313131, and each day you'll get a free play on a text message on your cell phone. It's a snap. Jim, last weekend, the people who signed up to your special absolutely crushed their guys last week. Because you just had a monster weekend, and you're ready to do it again.
Well, yeah, these are big plays, Dave, and I'll tell you what, my best advice to everybody that's listening is to take advantage of all the guys' plays here, because I get the plays, I bet their plays, I bet my own plays, I bet their plays, and we've been winning. And putting money in your pocket every week is a lot of fun. A lot more fun than losing, believe me. And this week, As I had last week, some high rollers. I was 3-1 on those games. This week I have two big high rollers. These are $500 value plays. I got two of them. They're only $10. You make the call 1-866-841-1655. $10, two high rollers. These are huge plays. I'll bet huge on them, as I will on the other guys' big plays this week. And as far as my best bet here on the show, I really like the total in the Miami-Florida State game. I like it to fly over that 50. You might get 50 by one of these teams. So I really like that as a best bet right here on the show. That is our show for this week, and I guess we ran a little long, but we get windy sometimes. But we have a lot to say. And wish everybody great luck, all the guys here on the show, all you players out there in the hinterlands, and we'll see you next week.